Hello everyone, welcome back to Lucky Lotus 15, where you've tuned in to something a little bit different on the channel. I have mentioned this the last few videos now that we've released over the last couple of days, and this is a new feature we're going to be running on the channel and seeing if you like it or not. It's something that I'm going to call the Loader Look, which is a kind of, in my opinion, based video on matters and topics surrounding horse racing at the moment. It's something that I have planned on doing and maybe giving the channel a little bit of a different angle, even though we still will be doing our daily each way Lucky 15 predictions if you like those. So please stay subscribed to the video. And like I've said many millions of times before, a lot of you are probably sick to death of it, but if you're new to the channel, I created this YouTube channel because I'm going back to university to study a master's degree in sports broadcasting journalism in September this year, and I just created the channel really to give me some confidence in presenting, doing some research, also getting confidence in behind the camera and creating and uploading videos on a regular basis, so it helped me in my future dream career, hopefully, of working as a journalist in the horse racing industry. So this vlog is a bit different to what we've been doing on the channel. It's something that I'm going to try and do once a week roughly, on, like I say, things going on in the world of horse racing or things that can spark off a debate. And the first vlog we're going to do on this Loaders Look, as it were, or episode 1 here, is going to be a big debate in who's the best jockey. Is it Ryan Moore or Frankie Dettori? And I want you to leave your comments in the comments box below. I'm going to go through on a few facts and figures and opinions I have on both the jockeys. This video isn't going to really probably take a particular side on who's the better jockey, but it's just to provoke some thoughts for you out there and see what you prefer if it comes down to it. For me personally, when I'm doing punting and that, I tend to consider the jockey when I select a horse. It isn't the number one factor why I select a horse, but it does definitely help. And I think everyone has their own preferences for jockeys out there. I think there's more preferences probably for jockeys to avoid than to like always back blind, as it were. But I'm going to go through on my opinions of Ryan Moore and Frankie Dettori. But I just want to say now that they're both two jockeys at the top of their game, both riding as well as ever, and they're two of the best jockeys, not just in this country but in the world. And here's the reasons why I think that they're both worthy of mention when you're talking them in the same breath currently of what are the best jockeys in the world. But if you've got your own opinions to that, please leave your comments box in the comments box below. But this is going to really just throw some light out there on an interesting and fascinating debate, I think. So please let your opinions heard. But if we look at Ryan Moore first of all, he's younger than Frankie. Ryan Moore was born in 1983, so he's roughly around 34. And he is one of the top jockeys around, if not a lot of people say the best jockey in the world at the moment. He started out as an apprentice like most jockeys do, and he was the apprentice champion jockey back in 2003. He then went on to become champion jockey on the flat here in Britain 3 times in his career. He hasn't won it since about, I think it was 2009 was the last time he won the British Jockey Flat Championship title. But that's because he doesn't probably ride as many rides these days as he would have back then when he was probably trying to get his career off the ground. He now tends to be a very international jockey, riding all around the world. He will obviously focus the British summertime as his number one priority, but when it goes off to the winter, instead of really rocking up on the all-weather, which sometimes he might have the odd ride here and there, he tends to go around the world. I know he spent a lot of time in Japan recently in the winter, and he's ridden all over the world, in America, he's ridden all around Europe, and a lot of top venues. I'm not sure if he's gone out to Australia maybe for the Melbourne Cup, but he's a top international jockey, and wherever he goes he rides a lot of winners all around the world. So he's a very top jockey. He also rides for many top stables. His most famous stable at the moment, and the one that he seems to be riding the most winners for these days, is Aidan O'Brien, who's arguably the top trainer on the flat in Britain and Ireland. But if you have any different opinions to that, let us know in the comments box below. I'm sure there'll be many opinions about this. But Aidan O'Brien is a top trainer with top quality horses and always puts a horse in the big races, and they normally are one of the favourites. And I've noticed quite a lot of recent times in these big races, Aidan O'Brien will tend to pick up about 4 or 5 horses for each race, and he'll obviously have 1 or 2 in mind, and he'll kind of tailor that to suit. But in the Derby this year, that plan was blown when Ryan Moore was riding Cliffs and Moher, and Wings of Eagles was the horse that won that day, which I think was the outsider of the whole of the Aidan O'Brien lot. So Ryan Moore didn't have the day that day, but he's certainly a great jockey. He has a great relationship with Highland Reel. That's probably one of his more infamous horses of late. He also had a good relationship with Churchill, who's been running recently. And again, he likes to ride a lot for Aidan O'Brien. He's always going to get mainly the pick of his horses, and it's normally the O'Brien children like Anna, Donacha, and it used to be Joseph as well before he went into training. He used to take a lot of the other rides for Aidan O'Brien. But he also has a good relationship with Sir Michael Stout, who's been a trainer for many years in the horse racing industry. And he's always had a good relationship with Sir Michael Stout. He's ridden for William Haggis. He's also started out his career with Richard Hannon Sr., who was a good trainer. So he's ridden for many good people. And Ryan Moore will always give a horse a good ride, in my opinion. But if I had to go personally, probably maybe a criticism, if you were to have of Ryan Moore, is that maybe he doesn't turn up for the average kind of races. Someone like maybe a Sylvester de Souza might turn up with maybe a poor or weak horse and will give it the ride of its life and tend to win. And I think you could argue that Ryan Moore doesn't do that often enough, but he doesn't need to do that often enough, because he did that and he managed to get the good rides in his career, and he's always ridden very well, and he is a great jockey and sportsman. But for me as a punter, sometimes I can find him frustrating, and I know a lot of you probably do find him frustrating at times. It's been a bit frustrating recently, but please let us know your comments in the comments box below, what your opinions of Ryan Moore are. Then we're going to go on to talk about Frankie Dettori now, the other jockey that we mentioned in this, like, not David and Goliath battle, but battle of titans, on who you would decide who would be better. Frankie Dettori, in my opinion, is probably, for me, if I was backing money on a horse, I would probably just edge Frankie over. But that's by no means that I'm saying overall I prefer Frankie Dettori as a better jockey. I just sometimes feel that Frankie sometimes can maybe make the difference on a horse that maybe Ryan Moore doesn't. I think sometimes the horse's ability can sometimes always determine if whether the horse is going to win or not, no matter who's riding. But I personally sometimes just rather prefer Frankie, and I tend to find as well, if you were to go down the bookies or look on your phone on the app and you were having a punt, I would probably say that sometimes Frankie's horses are better valued normally than maybe Ryan Moore's rides. So that's an interesting one as well, which one sometimes is more often favourably priced. But Frankie Dettori is similar kind of background to Ryan Moore, both from horse racing families, both are 3 times British champion flat jockeys in the summer, and they both are international riders. Frankie's ridden many winners all around the world. Also as well, Frankie has definitely proved himself to be one of the best jockeys around. Lester Piggott, who was one of the greatest jockeys of all time, did say not so long ago that Frankie Dettori was still currently the best jockey riding around. Frankie Dettori's ridden over 500 group winners. He's also most famously probably remembered, but it was quite a while ago now, I think it was about 20 years ago, where he rode all 7 winners on the card at Ascot on Champions Day back in 1996, I think, and that was a fantastic memory and a fantastic career moment for Frankie that sticks in a lot of people's memory. I was probably too young to remember that then, but from what I've heard it since, that's always quite rare that a jockey can have a number of rides on the card and win all the races. And I think that day the bookies took quite a big payout there. They were paying out a lot to punters that day, because I think a lot of people did back Frankie's horses throughout the day, and obviously it wasn't a good day for them. So Frankie is the older of the two by about 14 years. Frankie now is in his mid, coming up to his late 40s. And it'll be interesting to see how long Frankie goes for. You could arguably say, if you were seeing who was the greatest jockey of all time, Ryan Moore's could have another 10 years left of riding in him, but it depends on how he feels, if he ever picks up any injuries as well. Injuries are always a massive part in sport, not so, I should say it's the same in horse racing. Injury is always a massive part. Frankie recently has been suffering an injury, and he is coming back for Goodwood, which I will be at next week hopefully, so stay tuned for that and we'll let you know more nearer the time about me being at Goodwood. But yeah, Frankie is, like I would say, probably if you were to compare the two right now, he's the more standout jockey because he's had more time on his side, Frankie. But Ryan Moore has got time to catch up, as it were, to Frank, or even not surpass achievements of Frankie Dettori. But it'd be interesting to see how long Frankie rides for. But Frankie has been riding as well as ever. They've got some good rides and probably battles left to come against each other in the future, but like I say, it'll be interesting to see how long Frankie goes for. Also as well, he's ridden for many top trainers. Frankie Dettori, he currently rides a lot of winners for John Gosden, Sir Michael Stout, William Haggis, Luca Comani. So he rides a lot for the top people in horse racing around Britain and Ireland. And he's got an Able this weekend as well, which we'll get onto later in the week as well, which he is currently market favourite for, going against Highland Reel and the King George. That one actually has drifted out, which is quite interesting. So yeah, so if I had to say who's the better jockey, historically you would say probably Frankie Dettori, but that's because Ryan Moore is only really halfway through his career so far and has got more time to catch up. And if I was having a bet on either one, I would probably just side with Frankie, just because I think he can get that a little bit more out of the horse. But I think they're both good, capable jockeys. Also as well, we might just have a quick look as well at what upcoming riders there could be coming through the ranks as well. I don't think there's anyone really standing out that would be as good as these two, Ryan and Frankie, but few people maybe to mention in there, name drop as future great jockeys. Josephine Gordon could be a good one. She's been riding very well of late. Not many champion apprentice jockeys then go on to greater things, and Josephine Gordon looks very exciting jockey on paper. She is kind of one of those more hands and heels riders, and only ever really tends to use the whip as a last resort. I think she could be an up-and-coming star if she can just get a few more good breaks and a few good more rides from other trainers. Also as well, William Buick you could mention in there, James Doyle, Richard Kingscote. There could be some other good up-and-coming ones along the way, like Conor Murtagh, who are currently apprentice jockeys. Also as well, Ross Ryan's been catching the eye, Josh Bryan, Lewis Edmonds. There's a lot of good young riders around at the moment. Holly Doyle could be another one you could throw in there. But obviously they've got to go out there and prove themselves in the big races, and it's going to be a while probably before they get on those top horses, because Frankie and Ryan are probably still going to have those pick of the rides over the next couple of years or so, and it'll be interesting to see what battles lie ahead for them. Anyway, that's the first ever video on the Loader Look. I'm going to look for something that we can talk about next week, or if you've got any ideas that you'd like me to debate, please let them know in the comments box below. Let us know as well what your opinions are on Frankie and Ryan Moore, and what other jockeys might be coming up and through. So please subscribe to us on the channel here at Lucky Loaders 15. If you just want me to go back to the betting videos, let me know as well. So yeah, just follow us, subscribe to us here at Lucky Loaders, like the videos for more horse racing daily content. You can also follow us on Twitter at Lucky Loaders 15, the same on Facebook. Also as well, just want to say a massive thank you to all my subscribers so far. We're now at 70 subscribers last time I saw it, but I really want to get more subscribers so we can take this channel to a better place. So stay tuned, and we will be releasing tonight's vlog for tomorrow's horse racing predictions later on today.